Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, me too. Let's have fun on this journey together. We will be working through the Tyler Perry universe, starting with Sistas. Today we're working on season 1, episode 3, A Woman with No Soul. Please be warned, there will be spoilers. This episode opens with Aaron and Karen sitting in the car talking about their common bitterness over ice cream. Karen asks, "Why are men so full of shit?" And Aaron responds, "Maybe it's the women that men choose." And in true Karen fashion, she throws his cheating wife in his face. Now she feels guilty and wants to pay Aaron for the $8 ice cream that she took from him. It was a small box. $8? Good God. He wasn't supposed to get that anyway. And it was just vanilla. Okay. As he walks away, Karen asks Aaron, "Ain't you gonna ask me for my number?" And he replies that he don't think he wants to, but he does leave a rose in the car with his contact information, and that was very sweet of him. But he's still married and a little bit bitter, right? Back over at the airport, Danni is begging Sabrina to talk her down from whooping Gary's ass. Danni sends us picture to Sabrina to prove that it is Gary and he is there with another woman. The ladies get Karen on a 3-way call, and Karen finally talks Danni down from approaching Gary. Then she calls Andy, who thinks Gary is going to Albuquerque, and it finally comes out. This is Gary's wife. Danni and Sabrina had no idea. So there's no way for Danni to know whether this is actually his wife or not at this point. We don't know if that's his wife. It's a tall, slim chick with long, straight hair and bangs, but to me, either it was a stand-in or it was another woman. Nobody talks about that. Anyway, Danni demands that Karen, Andy, and Sabrina get to her house in 30 minutes. Don't waste no time. So Danni and Sabrina are already sitting on the couch discussing married men, and Sabrina reminds Danni that, while you mad at Andy, you was dating a married man too. She was like, "Well, I left him." She was like, "Yeah, after about a year." Yeah. So, you don't have room to judge, but we can always learn from other people's mistakes, right? That's a mistake that Danni made. She could learn from it. I digress. But they are really wondering why nobody told them that Gary was married. Finally, almost everybody is in the one room, and Danni tells Karen that she talked to Zach. Karen tries to act like she doesn't care, but she has to be her own worst enemy, I swear. Even though Andy walks in with a bottle of wine, Sabrina and Danni give her a deadpan stare because they waiting on whatever explanation Andy has for them as to why she is dating a full-on married man. Andy breaks the tension and the stares by asking if anyone has anything to smoke. Of course Danni has something to smoke. So Andy starts discussing the positives of dating Gary. Still, he is married, but she assures everybody that Gary will be getting a divorce, but conveniently leaves out that she knows for a fact he will because she's representing his wife. She's not. Andy says she's not delusional, and Gary will be getting a divorce, but Karen's action says that she don't believe that either. So on the way home, Karen and Andy try to rationalize why everybody in their circle is having such men issues. For some reason, Andy would rather believe that Danni is lying than to believe that Gary is with another woman, whether it's his wife or not. Both Karen and Andy are frustrated with their situations, but they both decided that they're done with the situation, but Andy doesn't sound like she really believes herself. Back at the house, Danni and Sabrina are cleaning up, from their little get-together. And Calvin calls. Sabrina rejects the call. Danni tells Sabrina, just ask him if he's gay. Just ask him. Just do the grown woman thing. But Sabrina she's apprehensive about it. So Danni asks, okay, well, let me have Calvin's first and last name. and she go do some internet sleuthing, Calvin calls Sabrina again, and instead of rejecting the call this time, Sabrina answers it accidentally, and the conversation gets very awkward to a point where Calvin just asks Sabrina, what's the deal? He's asked her out for lunch again, and he's very nice, and he's been very kind to her. He really likes her, but he can sense that something else is going on. He just asked. He was like, well, when you're tired of playing the games, call me. We can have a conversation, or you can just, let me be on my merry way, and I don't blame him. Now, in the next scene, we see Gary is sitting on Andy's couch from where he had let himself in her apartment. Andy questions him about the trip to Albuquerque, and Gary denies that there was another woman involved. And finally, Andy tells him she is tired of his shit. She wants to know how Gary found her and why he wants to play these games with her. How is his gym directly across the street from her house? Why does he keep making these promises? And just yet again, Gary makes another promise telling him that he'll go home and tell his wife right now that he's leaving. Andy does was equivalent to the triple dog dare in a relationship, and she challenged him on leaving his wife. But now he wants to backtrack and talk about how it would devastate his kids, especially the one with autism, because they're used to daddy being there. And he is seriously pushing this guilt trip on Andy. And Gary, we can see through that one tear. Come on now. But then he has the audacity to gaslight Andy and ask her if she is seeing somebody else. Well, she's single, Gary. If she want to see somebody else, she is. Well, I'll save that for the review. But she tells him no, she's not seeing anybody else. So Gary turns around and asks her to marry him. He has the ring, he's gotten down on one knee, and he asked her to marry him. Gary, you married. That's illegal. She's a lawyer. She can tell you. She's a divorce lawyer. She can tell you better than anybody that is not legal. But back over at the bank, Calvin is in line. So when Sabrina calls the next person, he steps aside and let them go through so that he could speak with Maurice directly. After a little small talk and flirting on Maurice's part, Calvin asks Maurice for his phone number, and child Maurice writes that number down so fast that when he hands the paper to Calvin, it's still smoking. Sabrina overhears the conversation a little bit, and she's a little upset because she was hoping that he was coming to ask her out again, I guess. I guess she wants him to bed. She don't want him, but she wants him to pursue her. Okay. But she snaps at Maurice about how he's doing his job, and Maurice tells her outright, listen, he asked me to lunch, and I want to know if it's okay with you. So Sabrina gives her approval, and Maurice leaves to have lunch with Calvin. Sabrina runs to her office, and she has to call Danni to tell her about what happened, and Danni mutes the phone to laugh because now Sabrina's boyfriend has asked another man out for coffee. Now back at Danny's job, here comes Zach on his little golf cart with 3 young white women that he's transporting through the airport. They have rich daddies. They heavily flirt with Zach, and they try to coerce him, convince him, talk him into coming on their little boating expedition. And Zach is just eating it up. He's just gushing at the flirting. And ironically, Danni can't find their tickets. The more they talk, the more she can't find. She canceled their ticket, child, and then offered them only coach tickets, and they are not doing coach. So they are going to call somebody's daddy so he can fly them out on the private jet. I'm just saying. So finally, as the girls are walking back to the cart, Danni pulls Zach to the side and like, where you living? And, where you living? And Zach tells her he doesn't want her to know because he doesn't want Karen to know. So as the girls walk back to the cart, Danny pulls Zach to the side and asks where is he living, and he doesn't want to tell her where he lives because he does not want Karen to know. So he gets back on his car and he takes these young ladies on their merry way. Now, Calvin and Maurice are having, their little coffee lunch. And Maurice tells him, "Oh, I thought you were into Sabrina." And Calvin admits, "Yeah, I am into Sabrina. That's why I asked you to lunch." And he apologizes for the misunderstanding. But Calvin is not into men, and he would like Maurice's help with courting Sabrina. Maurice is a little bit salty, but he continues to converse with Calvin. And here we find out that Calvin has two fathers, which is why he's more accepting of everyone. Maurice asks what was it like being a straight boy growing up with two daddies, and Calvin says it taught him to treat people like people, and that's the best way to go. Now over at Andy's job, her boss walks in and asks her if everything is okay. Andy must have made a decision on whether it was an actual conflict of interest for her to take Jasmine's case, because Jasmine is in the lobby. Now Andy invites her back to her office and they have a seat. Jasmine is there and she's smiling and she looks happy, and she thanks Andy for helping her improve her marriage. Let me say that again. She thanks Andy for helping her improve her marriage. Okay? She's decided not to leave Gary. They weren't able to find out who was living in that apartment complex, so she kind of debates as to whether Gary is cheating or not. And Jasmine says she's not going to let some horrible, miserable, wicked person destroy her marriage. Clearly they're the devil, right? Then Jasmine goes on to tell Andy how much Gary begged her to stay and didn't want her to go. And then Jasmine shows Andy the makeup ring that Gary gave her. And it looks very, very familiar to Andy. Almost like the ring that Gary used to propose to her with. Okay, it is the ring that Gary used to propose to her with. Let's talk about this. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have a picture up. Does that look like Gary's wife to you? I don't think that's Gary's wife. I mentioned this in the review because we are doing a re-review, and I didn't think that was his wife, and just now I went back to look at the episode just to see if that was his wife. It's not. That is not Gary's wife, and we never talked about it. So this is my review for season 1, episode 3, A Woman with No Soul. And I have a couple of questions, like, if Aaron clearly has an issue with black women, why is Karen even entertaining him? Yeah, he apologized, but okay, but honestly, he already told her he doesn't date black women, so why even entertain it? He clearly has issues with it, but, to each their own. I can't even say he seemed nice enough because he just went off on Karen out the door. And yeah, as I mentioned in the last segment there, that's not Gary's wife. Of course, we're doing a rewatch, so I'm doing it from a beginner standpoint, but I don't think that was Gary's wife. I guess we'll find out later whether it was or was just a stand-in and we weren't supposed to notice, because she still has the same shape, height, but she's just a little bit lighter than Gary's wife, Jasmine. I still don't understand why Andy and Karen felt the need to hide that Andy was dating a married man. They had been dating for 6 months before the ladies even met Gary, and Andy had been trying to coerce him into leaving his wife for 4 months. Why were they not okay with discussing this with Sabrina and Danny? I don't know. How close are these ladies actually friends? I don't know. But, just a couple of things to think about. Come talk to me in the comments. Let me know what's on your mind. Let me know what you think. What's going on in your head. Let's have some discussions here. Thanks, Joe. Thank you so much for stopping. Come on, have some conversations with these nets.